Always pumped to talk about the great sport of hockey, field hockey, if we want to be specific, of course, covering all the different versions of hockey on this podcast. And a pleasure to welcome to the show for the very first time a debut Olympian who made her debut in Paris as part of the Hockeyroos squad. And I'm so excited to learn about her time in Paris and her journey right up to those Olympics. It's a pleasure to welcome to Off the Podium Tatum Stewart. Tatum, first of all, welcome to Off the Podium.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm excited to have a chat. People know I can talk to a brick wall, so
I'm often called a brick wall, so that's going to make this even better, I think, right now. But we're glad that you're ready to chat, because that means I've got to make sure my questions are up to standards here, Tatum. But I just quickly to clarify, by saying field hockey, have you ever tried ice hockey at all? Just we don't need to have any side questions at all of the ice variety today?
No ice here. I've literally ice skated once and it was disastrous, so I haven't attempted anything like it again. So
clarifying for our Canadian side of the audience on our co-Canadian Australian podcast, because a lot of Canadians listening go like, how have you not ice skated? And that's generally the Australian answer. We've tried it once and then never again. But field variety, field hockey, the great sport of field hockey. You were 4, I believe, when you picked up a stick and started playing hockey. I'd love to know, what was it about hockey that drew your interest and made you sort of start this journey into the sport?
Yeah, so it's actually it's a pretty unique story, I guess, but no one in my family ever, like mum's side or dad's side, had ever played hockey before. But my dad went to the Commonwealth Games in Edinburgh in 1986 for swimming. So as an alumni Com Games member, he gets ticket pools and those sorts of things for future Com Games. So in 2006, we went to the Commonwealth Games in Melbourne, and hockey was one of the sports that we went to watch. Like, it was something that both my parents have always enjoyed watching at the Olympics and those sorts of things. So obviously we want to see that live. And I have an older brother, and he was actually the one who said, I want to play that game with the stick and the ball. That's the infamous quote. And yeah, when we returned to Queensland, at the time I was living in Millmerran, so there's not a whole lot of facilities and those sorts of things out there. So when we were, making the drive and the effort to get to Toowoomba to play sport, he wanted to play hockey. So naturally I had to do the same to make it easy for mum and dad. And as it goes, I really hated it at first. Dad used to have to hold my hand and drag me onto the field, and I'd be kicking and screaming and causing a scene. So that's how I got into it. It doesn't sound like the best start, but yeah, obviously I persisted, or rather mum and dad made me persist, and thank God they did, because obviously I ended up loving it and still love it now.
I love the inspirational journey of that story, Tatum. I'm glad this isn't like a high school right now. And like, hey, kids, if you get your parents to drag you kicking and screaming on the pitch, you too could become an Olympian.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's how it goes. Yep.
Wow. I've got to ask about your dad then quickly. Commonwealth Games, swimming. Yep. How did he go? And there was no desire for you to follow him into the pool at all and go swimming?
Well, I did swim for a very long time. I was a butterflyer, so that's probably... as you can imagine, why I ended up stopped swimming. But yeah, he swam the 200 IM, and I think he swam 4 seconds over his PB, so he didn't swim his best. And I think he was reserved for the final. So
right,
yeah, not his best meet, but he loved it, and obviously the way he spoke about representing his country and going to such a prestigious event like the Commonwealth Games was definitely something that, as a kid, I always looked up to and wanted to sort of follow in his footsteps. And for a long time, I thought it might be in swimming, but I just didn't enjoy it the way I enjoy hockey. So yeah, swam at a few state champs and the nationals here and there, but yeah, it was an effort to get me to training. So that's why I ended up, my heart ended up in hockey.
I'm noticing a trend here then, that there's an effort to get to training, dragging on the field, a few things to cover with that there. Sort of touching on that, it's sort of inspirational, like growing up, did he sort of have, represental like photos and kind of, I don't know, a jacket or something from the Commonwealth Games that you could kind of look towards and help inspire you, kind of seeing what your dad had achieved at that national, international level?
Yeah, definitely. And like heaps of photos. And I remember one thing that he had, which might not seem, super flashy, but he actually had a training journal of all of the swimming sessions that he did growing up. He used to write them all down after the session and how hard it was out of 10 and that sort of thing. And I think more than anything, that inspired me because I could physically see, wow, this is how much work he did. And yeah, obviously his blazer and his Swimming Australia pin, they were cool mementos and were things that I wanted for myself. But I actually think, yeah, his training journal was the coolest thing, and that he still had it. Yeah. And he ended up swimming coaching for a while at Toowoomba Grammar. And so, yeah, to see some of his sessions then become like, they've evolved, but be used still in the pool, I thought that was really cool.
Fantastic. Does that inspire you then to keep a journal? Do you do something similar now that your dad did, kind of on that same page?
Yeah. I stopped this year, but well, for multiple reasons, but I kept a journal when I moved out of home and went to Brisbane for uni and to pursue hockey more. I kept a training journal. It was hard, but yeah, I've got a full book and I started a new one. And the reason I stopped this year is because I accidentally left it in Queensland when I moved to Perth. But
wow.
I could have bought a new one, but I was
going to say, you do know they sell notebooks in Perth, right? Like I believe they've got them.
But the pedantic OCD person in me was like, I can't start a new one because then I'll want to go back to the old one when I get it back, and then the new one will be behind. And yeah,
and I can imagine, is it also like you need to get the same style? You need to get like the same, like I'm like that with notebooks. It's kind of like I've got to get exactly, they've all got to look the same on a shelf basically, right?
Yes. Yeah. All my notebooks are from Kmart for that reason. So they all look the same.
That's a smart way to do it. I just appreciate the fact, Tatum, that there are people still your age using pen and paper, because I often got mocked during my role in Paris because I was using pen and paper when the majority of people around your age are using phones and computers and everything. I'm like, no, I'm old school. Give me pen and paper any day of the week, right?
Yeah. No, my notes app is too messy to have anything meaningful in it. So definitely pen and paper for me.
I'm with you there. So outside of, we'll get to the hockey sort of more in a second, swimming, were there any other sports that you did as a kid, and was the Olympics that goal? Were you playing these sports to try and get to an Olympics?
Yeah. The main sports I played growing up were swimming, cricket and hockey. They were the ones that I did a lot more representative work in. So yeah, when I was when I was 12, I made a Queensland cricket team and I was involved in some Queensland squads and played in Premier Leagues in Brisbane. And then obviously with swimming, I was involved with state champs and national champs and those sorts of things. But when I was younger, especially in primary school, I was doing athletics. I did Scottish dancing. I did basketball. Wow. I did, literally everything that my parents were willing to drive me to. I did ballet for 1 year that I parked on the side, but yeah, no, I literally did everything that they would let me do. And as for that story that I was saying, how I got into hockey, one of the reasons that I started enjoying it a bit more was because one of my now idols, Angie Skirving or Lambert, however you know her, she actually came over one of those days I was having a tantrum and sort of soothed me and showed me her Commonwealth Games gold medal that she won in Melbourne. And I didn't obviously understand the importance of it at the time, but I was pretty enamored by this, shiny medal. And Dad was like, well, if you keep playing this sport, you can get some of them. And I was like, oh, okay. So, and there's this brilliant photo of her and I with that medal. So yeah, it's a nice little story, but definitely all those elements in play. And I did have an older brother and I'm so competitive. So I just wanted to be better than him at everything. And so, yeah, I think all those different things, I always wanted to play for Australia in something. And the Olympics, obviously growing up, watching it as a kid, like that's where you go, wow, that's what I want to do and what I want to be. And yeah, for a while it was, which sport's going to get me there? But yeah, obviously in the end it ended up being hockey, but cricket and swimming were definitely the other two that I put a lot of time and effort into.
Cricket now could get you to the Olympics, but obviously growing up it couldn't, and I don't know how Scottish dancing would have gone. Maybe they'll bring it for the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow should they be announced that soon. I love that story though about like throwing a tantrum and that basically kind of like, here's a shiny medal to kind of, calm you down, because like all jokes aside, it's always important when we kind of have maybe a moment that sort of we can always reflect on that is almost like that sliding doors point of our life that maybe had she not been there and shown you that and you just continue to have a tantrum, we might not be talking to you today as an Olympian in hockey. It could have been in swimming or cricket in a few more years' time. Who knows?
Yeah, definitely. I think as well, Angie, as she's obviously someone that I idolize now, and she's involved with the Queensland Academy of Sport through hockey. So she's coached me recently. I've played against her. And when I got a bit older in Toowoomba, she extended a hand to ask if I wanted to do some coaching sessions with her. And so I think, all those moments and reflecting back on the first one, she didn't have to do that. Like I was just some random kid kicking and screaming, but for whatever reason, she thought, maybe I'll step in here. And I think that's really important to me, that kind of role model that she is. And, now that I'm home from the Olympics, that's kind of what I want to be for other kids, because I think about it and I go, what would I want as a kid and how was I treated as a kid? And if I don't do that for others, then who knows who might be missing out on, a future of hockey. So you're so right. It is one of those sliding door moments. Who knows what would have happened if it didn't occur, but thank God it did.
It's also one of those things too, that coming from a place like Toowoomba, it's not Sydney, it's not Melbourne, it's a big city, but it's being in such a small sort of regional city, you know who your Olympians are or your prominent people are. I'm Tasmanian. Often tell the story about how I made Eddie Ockenden good. We had him on just before the Olympics and I let him score. I was a goalie, so he scored a lot of goals against me. So, I like to have that claim to fame. But all jokes aside, we very much knew who Eddie Ockenden was growing up. I remember Bianca Langham being a big deal in Tasmania when she was going through the hockey roos as a kid. And, we had other great Tasmanian hockey players that sort of would go on to win medals and everything along those lines and compete at the Olympics. But it's that inspiration, isn't it? Coming from sort of a smaller city, smaller town where you can look up to these people and it's maybe easier to relate to them because they've made that journey from a smaller place versus a bigger city in the country.
Yeah, definitely. I think I say a lot, like, if you can see it, you can be it. And for me, growing up, that was so, so important to me and so true. Like I went to Fairholme where Kathy Freeman went to school and obviously she was talked about a lot. And so seeing that as well, like as a student being like, wow, was at this school and did this incredible thing. Like, why can't I do the same? And obviously with Angie as well. And then one of my other massive role models in Toowoomba, Karen Smith or Karen Robertson, however you know her, same thing, hockey roo, Olympian. And she was so involved in the community. And I was like, wow, like you're standing right in front of me and you've gone and done what I want to do. And you're so right. It's so important. And in a community, in a regional community like Toowoomba, you do know who's who and you do know those stories. And because you sort of feel a part of it because it's a smaller place, you really do believe that you can go on and do it. So it's so, so special, I think, compared to maybe bigger cities. I'm sure they have their own special nuances, but it is unique to being in a smaller community, I guess.
And I'm sure the school now, not only does it say Kathy Freeman went here, it will say Tatum Stewart went here as well, right? So are you on the honour board next to Kathy now? Is that how it works?
Oh, maybe. Fairholme is, it's a great school. It's a great sporting school. So it does have a few Olympians produced out of there. So maybe there's a little wall somewhere that my name's on, but
I'm sure that's there. You'll get a hockey field named after you there eventually. Just we'll talk after a few more years. Tell me about the Rangeville Bulldogs, though, your junior club, because I always love hearing about these clubs where people come from and hold dear to your heart, because I believe you recently, I think, got them a grant through the Woolworths program as well to kind of help them out with some equipment and everything along those lines.
Yeah, so it's actually funny because my first club, my initial club wasn't Bulldogs, it was Past High, but we were only there for 1 year before I think my parents made some friends at Rangeville, and then they were like, okay, well, we want to hang out with these people while you train, so we're going to move clubs. But honestly, thank God we did, because I owe so much of where I am now to Rangeville, not just as a player, but as a person. I have made some of my best friends there. Like my junior coach was with me from when I was 9 all the way until I left Toowoomba when I was 17. So, and I still see him every single time I come back to Toowoomba. He can't get rid of me. But honestly, it was such a family-oriented place and it really put the focus on you improving, and whether that, as I said, was you as a person or a player, it was just about you being involved in the club and getting something out of hockey for yourself, not not anything more or less. And so, as I said before, like I was so competitive. So obviously for me, it had a lot to do with pushing myself to be a better hockey player. But yeah, I made so many great friends at that club, and I was out at Toowoomba Hockey Association last weekend for their grand final day, and I was so lucky to be able to be involved with the under 12s grand final and the junior under 17 girls grand final for my club. And yeah, I don't think they realize how much it means to me to still be a part of it. But yeah, I love the Bulldogs, and they'll always have a special place in my heart. And as I said, they really did make me a better person, more so than probably a better player.
It's always good, those memories, though, because, yeah, we spoke about it with Eddie before the Olympics about, growing up in Hobart, those grand final days that you talk about, the community that you have with the club. And I touched on, I remember, you would get like kiosk duty. You'd have to sit there and volunteer at the kiosk, or, my parents' best friends they made were all through the hockey club, would have barbecues on the weekend and stuff like that. So it is so much more than hockey, isn't it? It just becomes like a bit of a family, sort of, your local club.
Yeah, definitely. As you said, like the grand final days, I think since I was maybe 8, like, when obviously, like I said, like my brother obviously played as well. So since I was 8, every year I'd spent pretty much the whole day out at the hockey fields, just talking to whoever would talk to me, watching the hockey, being a part of it, going on the jumping castle, eating the snow cones. It really is a big event. And then they have like the expo day at the start of the year. And I, like, as I sort of said, I wasn't even going for the hockey. I was going for everything else about it. And yeah, for those things to happen, as we sort of spoke about, it just doesn't happen in bigger cities because it's so spread out. There's multiple turfs, whereas obviously Toowoomba has one turf and everyone's there all the time. So it's not just within my club, but beyond my club, I made such good friends because we were there all the time doing what we loved. And as I got older, I would be out there at 7 o'clock in the morning doing minkies, and then playing my junior game at midday, and then playing an A2 game at 7 p.m. and then, umpiring the next day. Like, yeah, I think all those things are so important to have that community to, enjoy what you're doing, not just for the sport part, but everything else about it.
I got to ask, you mentioned him a couple of times, your brother, how did his hockey career end up going?
He represented Queensland a few times growing up, like he, 12s, 13s, 15s, but he ended up pursuing swimming a bit more. He was a better swimmer than I was. I hate to admit that, but it's true. He's got more national medals to his name than I do. So, yeah, he beats me there. But
you beat him in hockey, though. That's all that matters, right?
Exactly. It all balances out.
Yeah, exactly.
Once he left school, he sort of stopped doing sport, pursued uni and that sort of stuff. But yeah.
I was going to say only one of you has OLY after your name now, right? So, that level of competitiveness. In terms of sort of your progression, at what stage are you starting to represent the state, and making that ladder up? And is there such things in Queensland as like you can represent South Queensland and go up and play North? Because I remember we had that in Tasmania. You could represent like the south of the state versus, the north of the state. Like at what age did you start to sort of get those representative gigs?
Yeah, so how it sort of works that way where it's you through school sport anyway, you represent your region. So I obviously represented Darling Downs, and then we play against, Metropolitan North and North Queensland and Peninsula and those sorts of things. So I started doing that when I was 10 through school sport. And again, so my brother's 2 years older than me. So he made his first Queensland hockey team when he was 12. And so when I made my Darling Downs team when I was 10, I was like, okay, well, in 2 years' time, I've got to do that. And yeah, just the kind of person I am. And as I've sort of said, pretty much for those 2 years, that was my goal. And so I was going to club training and trying to get better and do all these things so I could make that team. And I did end up getting selected for that, my first Queensland team through school sport when I was 12. And then the other avenues are through club nationals, like you represent Toowoomba and you go to the state champs, and then you make the Queensland team, and then you go to the nationals, like how they do it now. But yeah, so when I was 12 is when I made my first one, and I was pretty lucky that, well, not lucky, but I probably had a smooth ride through the pathway where I was regularly selected in Queensland teams when I was in my top age. There's a few times where I sort of missed out on an initial squad or something, but that only pushed me to work harder to make sure it didn't happen again. So, yeah.
Because it's that level, isn't it, that it's great to make a team. You feel proud you've done it, and you go off and you do the representation, but then it's a matter of maintaining that spot, right? Like, I guess you can't become complacent. You can't just assume, well, I've made the team now, I'm a regular. You've got to maintain that spot to become a regular, right?
Yeah, and one of my best friends, she started making Queensland teams when she was like the bottom age. And so then I went, oh, like I didn't really know that was a thing. Like I always just thought you made it when you were the oldest in the age group. So then that was the next thing for me. Okay, well, how can I break into the team when I'm not even that top age group? So you're so right. It's never guaranteed. And you do have to keep getting better and keep working at the things you do. But that was always something that I loved about hockey compared to the other sports I did, was that I couldn't just be one thing. Like I had to be tactically smart, technically sound, fit, fast, strong, a good teammate. Like I had to be all these things to keep making it to the next level. Whereas, in something like swimming, which I still loved, I was just a butterflyer, and I went to training and that was all I did, and got in the pool and swam my laps and got out. Like I wasn't really required to be more than what I was. So that's what I really liked about hockey in particular. And yeah, that's why I feel like I was able to keep progressing in the teams, because I was always looking at which part in the circle of things you need to have in your toolbox was I needing to be better at.
And is that level of competitiveness driving you? So you make the state squad and then you become a bit of a regular, you keep going to these places. But does that competitiveness go like, okay, well, national squad, at what point am I going to be good enough? Like, oh, I've had a friend, they made it at this age, or there's a selector here today. Like, at what point all of a sudden are you that hungry where you're like, okay, maroon looks good on me, but green and gold probably looks a little bit better on me?
Yeah, I was lucky enough. Well, again, I say lucky, but, I had the opportunity to make the Australian under-16s schoolgirls team, which I didn't even know was a thing until I made it, essentially. So that was a pretty huge opportunity. And it wasn't, as you said, it wasn't really something that I had my goals set towards, because I didn't realize it was something that I could achieve. And yeah, when I first made it, I was bottom age and I was sort of like, whoa, this is a bit out of my depth. But then once, as you said, you get that little taste for it, like, okay, well, I want to go back for more. And so then I was thinking about how can I make it the next year? And for me in particular, I think, as you said, like, oh, is there a selector watching, or someone else has done it at this age? Those sorts of things, they've never really been in my mind. It's always been focused on myself. I think as soon as you start comparing to other people or start only showing up when you think someone's watching, that's when you fall into a bit of a trap. Because yeah, there is in my mind, there is no timeline really. As long as you're doing the right things and putting in the work, you'll get to where you need to get to, or you'll get to your potential, which is all you can really ask for. And so for me, with those sorts of rep teams and making it to that next stage, it was always just about, okay, well, what can I do tomorrow to make myself better? Or what can I do today to make myself better tomorrow? Was always my sort of mindset towards achieving goals. But yeah, after I sort of made those schoolgirls teams, it was, okay, well, where to next? And that's when I started going, okay, there's a Futures Australian squad, there's a Junior Australian squad, and yeah, all these sort of doors started opening that I didn't even know existed. So I was like, okay, well, that's where I'm going next, I suppose. So I had to sort of sit down and figure out how I was going to get there.
Did that make you set a target for the Olympics in terms of, I want to make the Paris squad, I want to make the LA squad? Like, do you kind of go that far into the future and set that target?
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny to think about the things that you do when you're younger, but I actually had a whiteboard that I forced my parents to go out and buy, and on it, there was like a little, I don't want to say a checklist, but like a little, as I've described, like a pathway, like there's this thing, and then Junior Australia squad, and then there's the Dev squad, and then there's making the Ruse squad, and then there's debuting, and then there's the Olympics. And all these things. I think it's still somewhere in a cupboard, but
I was going to say, I want to see a photo of this if this still exists, right?
there'll definitely be a photo of it somewhere. But yeah, for myself in particular, I always sort of had my eyes set on LA just because, you know, as I sort of said, I don't like putting, you know, with the Olympics, you know, there's time on it. There's a time and a date. And if you're not in it by then you're not in it. But I wanted to sort of give myself the time to see what I could achieve rather than being like, it has to be Paris or it's all over, or it has to be even Tokyo or that's it, I'm done, I'm giving up sort of thing. So LA was sort of where I thought I would be my real great shot at the time when I wrote this whiteboard when I was 17. And part of that was also because as a defender, it's my personal opinion that one of the ways you get recognized is through consistency. Like a lot of your role is just doing your role right over and over and over again. Like you're not, you know, the super creative striker up front. Like a lot of your job is just to pass the ball on and mark your player well. So I sort of had in my head, okay, well, I'm going to need time to show that I'm consistently good at those things. So that's why I sort of put it a bit further in the future. But yeah, I definitely was someone who sat down and went, okay, this is what's next and this is how I'm going to get there.
Helps to overachieve, right? You know, you set those goals and you get there a little bit early, overachieving that way. Just on the defending side of things, did you choose to be a defender? Was that just where you found your rhythm best? Like kind of what was the path that has led you to become a defender over another position?
Yeah, I think as you've just said, that's definitely where I found my rhythm, but it wasn't where I started. My first rep team for Darling Downs, I was a striker. And then I think for like maybe 10, 11, I was a striker. And then when I was 12, I started going back into the midfield a bit more. And for, you know, 13, 15, I was still sort of in that 13, 14, 15, still that midfield space. But then around 16, I definitely think like I started to get a lot stronger than other girls. Like just naturally, I've always been like broad-shouldered from swimming and I was still swimming at that time. So, and I was probably doing like some work in the gym that maybe other girls weren't because of swimming. And that definitely went hand in hand with, you know, my ball speed and my passing and overheading and those sorts of things. So naturally my skill set just worked better at the back. But yeah, passing has always been something that has been my sort of strength growing up. So it was only a matter of time, I guess, where I would have found myself further back in the field. But yeah, it's definitely where I've found my rhythm and what suits my skill set the best.
Any chance to keep going further back, put the pads on, become a goalie at all? Has that ever sort of been in the thought process?
We've joked about it before as a team where, you know, what would happen if, you know, both our goalies are injured, like who's putting their hand up. And I've always said that I'd do it. And I am posty. That's like my preference in penalty corner defense. So I'm not afraid of a ball being hit at me. And, you know, with cricket and things like that, like I'm used to balls coming. So I've always said, you know what, I'll do it if required. However, I do think I'm absolutely kidding if I think I'd be any good because what they do is a whole nother thing. And yeah, I respect what they do a lot. So I'm quite happy where I am right now. I don't see myself moving back, but you never know.
That's how I became goalie, is that we didn't have one. And I remember the first 2 games of the year, we got pummeled like 30-0 or something stupid like that. So then all of a sudden it was like third game. Oh, Ben, your dad's a goalie, your sister's a goalie. You can be a goalie too. He's got the equipment. We only lost 15-0 the next game. And apparently I played well enough that I got 3 votes, and even though we lost 15-0, So that's how my goalie career. I know, right? 50% improvement. So, you know, that kind of works. But yeah, I always like to find out. We've actually not had a goalie on this show, Tatum. I need to change that. I need to get a goalie on this show, right?
Yeah, you should do that. They think differently. They see things differently. I think that's a worthwhile endeavor. Yep,
exactly. I want to fast forward to 2023 when you make your Hockeyroos debut. Now, obviously, through all that progression that you're talking about and kind of looking at everything that you can do to get to that point, what's that moment like when you got that selection, when you got the nod? You're going, yep, you're getting to make the senior squad. You're about to become a a Hockey-roo. You're going to have your number forever now. You're always going to have that number as a Hockey-roo. I mean, what was that moment like?
Well, in suit with the way some of the things have gone for me in the past, it's a bit unorthodox. I actually got injured 1 week before the final selection camp for the 2023 squad. I tore a ligament in my foot, which was so random and so unfortunate. But yeah, so I was pretty devastated about that because I had it in my head, like, this is my opportunity to really show more of myself, I guess, because I just performed in the Hockey One League, and I was really happy with how I played. And I'd also played in the Junior World Cup qualifiers at the end of 2022 as well. So across those two different events, I was happy with how I played, scored a few drag flicks, thought I'd done what I could for the team, all those things. But to miss out on that last opportunity, I was a bit nervous, but I came to terms with it pretty quickly that, oh, well, it is what it is. I'm happy with what's happened. Can't change what's going on now. So I just have to sort of sit and wait for the final selection to come out. But lucky for me, they still wanted me involved in the camp in Sydney because there was lots of off-field things and I was in Dev Squad in 2022. So I wasn't getting my hopes up because I was thinking, they're still just preparing me as if I was in Dev Squad. But yeah, to then have that email come out and read your name on it when you're in a moon boot and on crutches, similar to what I am now. It's funny because you're like, oh, I haven't played hockey all week, but this is great, Yeah, there's definitely tears, and I called my parents, and sadly I couldn't FaceTime them because they're Samsung people, so that was a bit sad. But
come on, Mum and Dad, get on the right page. What's going on?
I know, but it is so special, and to be honest, like, to have that moment when I was injured, it kind of made it more special because it was like I was really able to just sit with it and feel it rather than then have to show up to training the next day at the camp. But yeah, it was pretty amazing. I then had to wait, unfortunately, I had to miss the first two pro leagues because of my injury. So I sort of got the selection and then was just sitting there like, okay, like, can I have my debut now, please? I was hoping to debut in Tasmania with one of my best mates, Maddie Brooks, but sadly not to be. So yeah, ended up getting my debut against China in Bunbury. So
hockey mecca, Bunbury, right?
Yes. Well, it felt like home. It was. I've said that to a few people. It felt like, to be that smaller community. It felt like I was getting my debut in Toowoomba. So as much as it might seem like this massive spectacle, it was pretty special to me.
But that's a beauty, I think, about Hockey-roos, Kookaburras games across Australia is that, it's not just your standard, we're going to play in Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane. We're going to go to these places. I mean, I remember as a kid, we always got excited when the Hockey-roos or the Kookaburras would come to Hobart. It felt like such a big deal. And speaking to, Eddie and past guests, I remember the 2001 Junior World Men's Cup we had in Hobart. I was a ball kid, and it was one of the times of my life I loved every single second of it. To have, 16 countries from around the world come to this event, it was amazing. So I always appreciate that there's such that level of hockey, international hockey in Australia, that will go to places like that. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I've been dropping hints to some people like, oh, maybe we could play an international in Toowoomba sometime, but I don't think I'm talking to the right people because nothing's happening.
You're an Olympian now. You got more connections than you did a few months ago. So,
this is true. I'll see what I can do, hopefully.
Yeah, go there. At what point do you then move to Perth? Because obviously with the sort of Hockey Australia being based out there, is that sort of a once you're in the squad, you move out there, or is it more of in the lead up to the Olympics?
Yeah, well, off the back of Tokyo, a lot of our funding dropped, which was a shame, but it was just the nature of what happened. So obviously we then had to adapt to the new reality of it. And what that meant was we were a decentralized program for a little bit, or at least when I first came into the program, just essentially meaning there's no central training environment. You can train with your institute. So last year I stayed in Queensland for my first year in the squad and continued training with QAS, just logistically with, finance and still studying and trying to still do some uni and those sorts of things in between where I could. And we were doing so much travel with Pro League that I was in and out anyway. So moving over just wasn't the right fit at the time. But then this year, we being an Olympic year and the importance of, really ramping up for that, it was centralised. So I was over in Perth for the first 8 months of this year, living with like a host family in like a billeted sort of situation that Hockey Australia set me up with because they're so great and they look after us. So they made sure that moving over was a smooth transition. But yeah, hopefully the way things are looking will be centralised next year and hopefully in the future. So I'll be over there permanently. And even if we are decentralised, that's sort of the next step anyway. Like if I want to keep being the best player I can be, which is obviously my goal, then I'm going to have to go and be in that environment 24/7. So yeah, I am wanting to move regardless of whether the program is centralised or not, just because obviously that's the next step. But yeah, it is a bit of a trek over to Perth.
Just a little bit onto the other side of it. Which also, like, I guess, given that we have a home Olympics in 8 years' time, is that something that places like Hockey Australia, I'm sure a lot of other sports are really trying to make sure that there is almost a centralised area because we want to all be in tip-top shape, obviously, not just for LA, but of course for a home Olympics in 8 years' time.
Yeah, they the Perth Hockey Centre is getting like a complete new reconstruction to ensure that our facilities are putting us in the best place. Obviously, yes, for LA, but looking towards the Brisbane Olympics in particular. So that's really exciting, and obviously we'll get to reap the benefits of that hopefully very soon. And I know that Hockey Australia as well are looking into hopefully a legacy centre in Brisbane, like either revamping what we have or making a new facility. Who knows? Hopefully that happens because, yeah, I think it would be like absolutely amazing for our sport if there was something permanent and something new that really catered towards what we need for the future of our sport. So obviously Perth are doing that for us on the high performance end, and then it's just that next piece, hopefully in Queensland, to really get hockey to be one of the sports that's remembered and people want to participate in going into the Olympics, but also coming out of it.
And just, of course, Brisbane down the road from Toowoomba, so it's very much a home Olympics 8 years' time for you. Did you actually, just on sort of home events, you touched on the 2006 Commonwealth Games when you were 4. Did you go to many hockey games during the 2018 Com Games on the Gold Coast at all?
Yes, I did. My family goes around to the Gold Coast regularly, so obviously that was definitely something we'd be doing. We went to the swimming, we went to the hockey, we went to some other sports that I can't remember, but yes, we did. We went to our fair share of Hockeyroos and Kookaburras games.
Right.
And yeah, obviously being a young aspiring athlete in the stands, I was pretty enamored watching them. It was pretty cool.
Were there any tantrums needed a medal shown to you to make you push towards more selection at all, or?
No, none of that this time, thank goodness. I think my parents would have been rather embarrassed if I did that this time around. So
you're never too old for a tantrum. That's all I say. You still have them no matter what age you are. You talk about making your debut, 2023, as I said. Now, given that we're looking at just over a year away from the Olympics, you've obviously said LA is that target, but there's got to be something in the back of your mind there, Tatum. You're like, oh, I've made the Hockeyroos now. We're about 12 months out from Olympics. This could be a possibility. Were you thinking Paris when you made your debut for the Hockeyroos?
Yeah, I mean, it's, as you just said, you can't not. Like, it's just over a year away when I first got selected. But yeah, you can't not think, okay, I actually am in a position and might have an opportunity to actually put my hand up for that spot in that team. So yeah, and it's a tricky one because you're like, oh, well, we're in the new year. Like, I've got to prove myself and those sorts of things. But at the same time, as I alluded to earlier, like, I'm just someone who likes to treat things as, how can I keep getting better every day? So for me, it was every time I played, whether that was, another international or whether it was a training or step foot on that field, it was like, I just got to keep showing up as my best self today. And some days are worse than others, but that's just how it is as an athlete. So, yeah, I was definitely thinking about it, but I was trying not to get too far ahead of myself and go, oh, it's right there. Like, I can just feel it and just try and stay present and focus on what I was doing at the time to help myself eventually get there.
Because it's also, you touched on it before, say, like, if you were a swimmer and you know what time you need to get to qualify, and then you have a trials, you win the event, and then you get a qualifying time. You're there. It's not that simple, obviously, for team sports, because you could be the best player for 12 months, but ultimately you may not get selected. We had Greta Hayes on the show just before Paris, and ultimately she didn't get selected, unfortunately, for Paris. So, like, how do I phrase this? What goes through your mind then through that process, and particularly when it's getting closer and closer to knowing that this team is going to be made? Because you might think you've done everything you can, but you ultimately won't know that you're going until you get that email. So, like, how do you balance those expectations and reality and all of that kind of period until you ultimately do get that email?
Yeah, I think you said it pretty perfectly. It's about doing everything that you can. And so, especially because I got injured in February, which is now the injury that I've had surgery on. But so I sat out for 3 months from Feb through to June. May, but yeah, I sat out for a long time and I missed some internationals. So it really was that I just have to do everything that I can do to, one, get myself back to playing good hockey, and two, be satisfied that no matter what the selection is, I haven't left any stone unturned. Because yeah, I think that's the thing that you dislike more, is if you don't get selected for whatever reason and you're like, oh, but I should have done this, I could have done this, I wish I did that. Like, if you leave those sorts of things out of it, then as much as it still hurts and it's when you don't get selected, you can at least go, well, I did all I could. And obviously it's not that it wasn't enough, it's just not what they were looking for. And then you go through all of the official processes of feedback and, asking the question of what could I have done differently. But as long as you yourself are satisfied with what you're doing and satisfied that you did in your heart what you believe was all you could do to get selected, then I think you have to walk away somewhat content. And so that's what I was feeling, especially with my injury. I was like, right, well, I can't play hockey, so I'm going to have to focus on my sleep and focus on my recovery and focus on my nutrition and obviously my rehab. But it was all those other things that, to be honest, I'm kind of, it's weird to say, but kind of grateful that I had that opportunity to step away from the pitch, because I did feel a bit overwhelmed first moving to Perth, first month in the squad, all those sorts of things. Like, it was definitely like an exciting, overwhelming feeling for me in particular. But yeah, it was kind of good to just take a step back and go, okay, let's refocus on all these things so that I can get myself in the best shape to get selected, and then what will be,
And what will be is you did get selected. I mean, I want to ask what that reaction was like, but you have a fantastic video on your TikTok showing that moment, which is just absolutely amazing. I mean, just take us through that video, the emotions, everything. Your parents are there. I mean, just everything that came from reading that email that you were officially going to the Olympics.
Yeah, well, yes, obviously the video does a good job at showing exactly how I felt. But it's funny, a lot of people said, like, why would you video that? And I was like, well, my brother, he's a teacher, and he really wanted to see it. And I was like, at the time that it's announced, obviously it's not public. Yeah. And he teaches year 7. And so I was kind of like, I don't think calling you, is the best idea. And you've got all these little 12-year-olds who probably can't keep their mouths shut. Not that they know, but, I didn't want anything to go wrong. So I was like, we'll just film it for you. And obviously for my grandparents and those sorts of things as well. But yeah, I mean, at the start of the video, I don't know if you can sort of see me like sitting down and stuff. And I say to my parents, like, oh my God, I'm so nervous, I don't want to open it. And then the whole video is not there, but I'm like saying to my mum, like, you open it. Like, I don't want to open it. You just open it. And then I was like, no, get it together, Tatum. Like, you can read an email. But yeah, like I sort of said to them before I opened it, they sort of asked, like, are you happy with where you are right now? And I was like, yeah, like, I feel like I did all that I could and showed all that I could, especially through those 3 months of rehab as well, that I feel like I've done what I can to get myself on the team. And now it's just a matter of if I'm the right fit for the team, because as you said, in a team sport, there's so many other things. It's not just how good you are. There's so many other things that determine whether or not you work well in that team. And yeah, opening it up and reading that email was, just pretty much instant tears. And I was crying for like a good minute. My mum couldn't read it. She's like, I can't see your name. And then she finally found it. And it was really special to share that with two of the people that, probably had the biggest impact on getting me to where I am right now. So, yeah.
Imagine it's the scariest and greatest email you've probably ever received in your entire life, right?
Definitely. And it's like they give you the time as well. Like it's coming out at this exact time. So you're sitting there twiddling your thumbs like, okay, it's 11:59 and now it's 12. And it's like, it's this whole whirlwind of emotions. You're sitting there the whole morning trying not to think about this email that's coming, but you can't help yourself. That's all you think about. So.
And it's a balancing act though then too, because you get over that initial excitement, the emotion, you're ringing people, you're sending the video, but at some point you've got to realize, okay, I'm going to an Olympics and we're going to win gold. So you then need to, I guess, switch to the job at hand. I mean, how long do you allow yourself the celebratory moment before all of a sudden it's straight back down to business?
Yeah, well, to be honest, I actually think as soon as I'd sort of calmed down, the first thing I sort of said to my parents was like, right, okay, off to get a medal. Like, so yeah, I sort of think I knew straight away, like this isn't all I want as an athlete. And I know it's not what my team wants, as, we're going on for something bigger than this. So yeah, I think straight away I sort of knew, all right, what's next? But there was that sort of period of time where it wasn't public to the media who was in the team and those sorts of things. So it's actually kind of nice to just sit with it yourself and, your family and not have too many people ask about it, because it gives you that time to feel what you need to feel, but also refocus without, too much of the excitement overwhelming that. So yeah, that period of time was actually really good, I felt.
I like hearing that because it's sort of, we get a mixed reaction when it comes to the athletes who obviously are told before it's announced. And sometimes that can be a very long period of time. There's been athletes who have known months before it's ever been announced and they can't say anything. But I like hearing that it's almost a relaxing moment, because like at the same time, like there's so much attention that comes with this. You're obviously going to have a media day with the boarding pass, the announcements. There are other media requests. And as soon as you hit the ground in Paris, there's cameras, there's people, things that you're probably not used to at other tournaments. Excuse me. So like, I like hearing that there's kind of almost just that level where you can breathe before the shit really does hit the fan in that level of things.
Yeah. And it was like that, to be honest. It was nice to share it with your family and share it with the other girls in the squad and those sorts of things. And even, some coaches involved at the institute sort of reaching out to you and it being like that tight-knit space. And then you can go, right, okay, this is what's next. And those other things are coming and they're great. Like it is so exciting to finally be able to tell more of your friends and have it out there and people know what's coming for you. But because you've sat and you've processed it for a little bit, you're also ready to sort of like handle the emotions of those exciting things and then talk to them about it and go, okay, this is the plan. This is where we're going, rather than just being like, oh my God, it's so exciting. Like you can actually, refocus on what you have to do.
Had your parents already booked flights to Paris, or was there a quick little phone call to Flight Centre to see what they can get available basically from that point on?
They had already booked flights, but
right.
they like, I don't know if they'll like me saying this, but whatever. They booked flights the year before. As soon as we qualified after the Oceania qualifiers and we got direct qualification for Paris, they'd pretty much got onto it straight away and were like, we're booking flights. And I was like, oh my God, no, like don't jinx it. Two, like, who even knows what's coming for me? I've got to earn my spot, like stop. And they were like, we don't care about you. We're going to watch anyway. I was like,
we don't care if you're in the team or not. We want to go to the Olympics. Screw you.
Pretty much. And I was like, can't argue with that logic. So, and they had they'd already got tickets to volleyball and beach volleyball and swimming and athletics. And I was like, yeah, they're definitely
having the time of their life without you, whether you're there or not. Who cares?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I was kind of like, oh, fair enough. I guess I hadn't thought about you and what you want, but.
Wow. Jeez. That's, I like the confidence though, no matter what, whether it's going to be a nice little, holiday there. I mean, you talked about that excitement. We always love finding, Tatum, from our guests, just like things outside of the competition side and that Olympic experience. I mean, again, on your TikTok, you have some great videos of like the uniform when you're getting that and kind of trying it on. Village life. There's somebody you met in the village, which I'm going to ask separately in just a moment. But I mean, how did you find all of that? And do you sort of get swept up in the excitement of it all?
Definitely. I mean, I'm quite an extroverted person and I love like, all those sorts of exciting experiences and really involving myself in whatever I can be involved in. So, getting to the village, it was sort of like, a kid in a candy store. I was like, oh, what's this? What's that? Well, da, 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 da. But as we spoke about, like, I think the team culture that we had and obviously myself, like, I know when to switch on and when to, refocus and when the time is to do those things. But yeah, I was definitely jumping at every chance to experience the Olympics that I could. So yeah, I was down in the coffee area talking to whoever would talk to me. And I was, riding a bike around the village and those sorts of things in the first few days and trying to sort of tick all of those things off before we really narrowed into those final few practice matches and then obviously starting competition. But yeah, it was so exciting. I loved it. And hopefully I'll get to go back and do it again. But yeah, it was awesome.
Did you get in the pin trading side of things and kind of were you like hunting? I know like the Dutch had the really cool clog pins and things like that. If you were like hunting down sort of the rare ones along the way as well.
Yes, I was a pin trader. I definitely wasn't as hardcore as some other girls on my team. Steph Kershaw definitely was like the number one pin trader, I reckon, in the whole Australian team. But yeah, I loved it. Like, and you'd see people in the dining hall and you go, oh, I don't have that country yet. So you go over and be like, hey, want to swap a pin? And then they'd be looking at your pins and then you find out what sport they do and all those sorts of things. Yeah, it was cool.
Speaking of what sports people do, going through your Instagram and seeing some of your highlights, you did happen to bump into a couple of notable Spanish tennis players, Mr. Alcaraz and Mr. Nadal. Nice little photo. Tell us about that little, chance encounter with both of them.
As most things have gone that I've told you so far, there's a story.
Yeah.
So the Spanish building was behind the Australian building, and I had just said goodbye to Maddie Brooks and Hattie Shand, who were our AP travelling reserves, and they were walking back to their accommodation. I was walking back to the Australian building, and they're crossing the road to go to the dining hall, and I was just like starstruck. They were just like casual people crossing the road, and I was like, oh my goodness. And I had this split second decision of, okay, I've either got to turn around and run and get Maddie and Hattie, or I've got to stay here and make the most of my opportunity right now. And I was like, no, they will be livid if I don't go and tell them who I've seen. So I'm like literally running through athletes like up this hill, yelling out to them, and all these people looking at me like, who is this chick and what is she doing? And they were like, Maddie and Hattie were like, what's going on? I was like, just come back here and you'll see. And then they start walking down and they see them and they're like, oh my God. And Carlos Alcaraz looked Hattie in the eyes and said, good luck. And so we were like, yeah, we got this. We've got this. They just said good luck to us. But
you can't not get a photo then, right? Like you just,
And they were so lovely. Like we were like, oh, if you don't mind. And they were like, yeah, of course, like no problem. And we were like getting ready to just take a selfie to make it convenient for them. And they're like, no, like get in here. And we're like, yes, thank you.
Wow. I love hearing stories like cool. That. Yep. That's fantastic. You got one with Jess Fox as well, I see. So, they're bumping there. Was there anybody else that you sort of saw and maybe were you seeking anybody else out at all in the village?
I was pretty keen to find Djokovic, but he wasn't in the village. I'm a bit of a tennis fan, so I've always loved watching Nadal. So, yeah, seeing him, he was my number one. Like if I had to meet one person, who would it be? And it was him. So I was pretty content after that. But I did see Djokovic over the railing when he won. He came back and their building's right near ours. So, the celebrations are crazy. So I saw him from a distance.
That counts.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Yep. Queen Mary came into the village for a little bit. So that was cool. But yeah, no, to be honest, I was pretty content after finding Rafa. So I was like, if I see anyone else, I see them, but I'm not on the hunt really.
Yeah. LeBron James could have walked past you and you could have been like, whatever, I met Rafa. Who cares?
Yeah. I mean, my brother was every day, have you met LeBron yet? I'm like, he's not in the village. Like, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but he's not here.
It's funny because in the media center they would have every day like a list of like these are the press conferences. So one day it was like US basketball. So of course everybody was like, oh, like let's go along and see LeBron. I think Kevin Durant went. I know LeBron didn't go, but there was one time I was walking from our little Team Australia room to I think like go to the bathroom or something boring like that. And coming up the stairs was like Team USA Athletics, who had Noah Lyles like walking straight towards him. I'm just going like, Noah Lyles, but I had to be professional. So I'm like, damn it. You know, that was like my one time where I got like, I wasn't in the village, but I was like, that's Noah Lyles.
That's pretty cool. That would have been cool.
Yeah, I was a little bit excited. On the competition side of things, so obviously group stage, I mean, just dominant. And yourself, 3 goals. Tatum, like you're a defender. You're not meant to be scoring goals. I mean, what's going on there? What's it like to score 3 goals at an Olympic Games? That must have been pretty exciting.
Yeah. Like a few people have asked, like, oh, what's one of the moments that, you know, you think of? And definitely that first goal against South Africa was, yeah, something else. That's pretty special. I definitely won't be forgetting that one for a long time.
Was that the one that was filmed and is on your social media, or was that a different goal? Because I know there's that great sort of video of you getting the goal and your parents going off.
Yes, I think that's a different one, but you know, they were definitely going off no matter what, that's for sure. But yeah, the goals that I score in, you know, typical fashion are earned by everyone else doing a little hard work. So yeah, I obviously have a specialist skill on penalty corners. I drag flick and do sliders as well. So yeah, like, yes, they're great. And, you know, I love that they get to be written next to my name. But at the end of the day, I'm really just doing my role for the team. And especially the stroke that I scored, like that couldn't be any more other people doing the work for me than that. But yeah, those moments are so special and they're great, but I think they're just a reflection of the type of team game we were playing. Because as you said, like we were playing so well. It was such a shame how it all ended, but yeah, we were playing some pretty amazing hockey, and to be a part of that in the sense of scoring goals was nice.
You touched on your injury, and we'll get to that obviously a little bit soon, but you, I believe, missed a couple of games sort of sitting out with that injury. I mean, is that difficult to be able to sort of like be in that level where the team's going so well, there's momentum, and you're ultimately having to sort of sit out and kind of like have a bit of a rest and not be part of that at that point?
Yeah, I mean, it was difficult, and the way it happened, like that wasn't the plan. Unfortunately, I took a bit of a bump in the Great Britain game, and that re-aggravated the same injury that I got in February. So, which my rehab was so smooth, like nothing went wrong. So for that to happen at that time was frustrating. But in the same sense, I got to see one of my best mates. I got to see Hattie debut as an Olympian as a result. And so like, would I want it to be differently? Probably not, because like that was so awesome. And even like, yeah, it wasn't ideal, but even just watching the team do what they were doing, I was like, wow, like this is so good. We're playing so well. And yeah, so it was obviously frustrating and difficult, but at the end of the day, like I wrote in a little journal that we got given while we were there, that I knew that obviously it didn't end up that way, but how I felt was that no matter who was on the turf, no matter who was doing what, like we had the team to go on and win a gold medal. So I was at peace, I suppose is the best way to say it. Like I was at peace with the fact that my Olympics may have been over, but we definitely had every single tool in the toolbox to go on and do what we wanted to do, regardless of whether I was a part of it. So yeah, I just always want the team to do well, whatever my role is in that. That's just always what I want.
Obviously, it wasn't over. You did get to obviously come back, which you'll touch on. I just want to quickly touch on the Argentina game. Were you playing in the Argentina game, or was that one of the games that you were out?
No, that was one of the games I was out, but my heart rate was through the roof.
They're all, don't worry. Everybody in Australia, I think, was when that goal went in right at the end.
Oh, it was awesome. And then like we had those 2 strokes that we missed, and you know, I was sitting there. I was like normally the stroke taker for the team, like, come on girls, you got it. And then I thought we had it in the bag, and then we didn't. And I was like, oh no. And then obviously we scored at the end, and yeah, like it was actually just awesome to watch. Like I would have loved to have played, but it was also awesome to watch.
How do you become the stroke taker? Is it just you're better at taking them in practice? You're a harder hitter? Like what ultimately gets made decision-wise for you to be the designated stroke taker?
Well, I mean, you never really know what the coach is thinking and why they make the decisions they make. But well, first of all, it's nice to know they have faith in you to do what you do. But I think when I think about strokes, yes, obviously like strength and pace because you're so close to the goal. A lot of the time, even if the goalie picks where you're going, if it's going fast enough, it's going to go in. We do practice them at training. So yeah, I think they watch what we do at training. Obviously the goalies know us. So if they know what we can do, but they still can't save it, then that's probably a good sign you're doing the right thing. But I actually think part of the biggest thing to do with it is being able to handle the pressure of it. Like at the end of the day, you're pushing your ball into the corner. Like I genuinely believe anyone in our team could do that and be successful at it. But being able to do it in a time that matters, like it might be to put you in front, it might be to bring you back to drawing, it might just be to keep you in the game. You might be losing by 4 goals, who knows? But you have to be able to handle that pressure of all the people watching you and then still execute. So I think to me, that's what the biggest thing is. And if there's one thing that I love, it's pressure. So, yeah. But no, there's like 4 or 5 girls in our team that are on like a stroke list who we can all take it. Like if I'm really not feeling it and for whatever reason I'm not confident today, girls, I know I can just handball it to someone else and they'll do the job just as well.
A lot was said in the media around the finishing position of the group. So that draw against Argentina, talking about how important it was so that we could avoid Germany or Belgium and that you'll get sort of the easier run in the quarterfinal. Is much said in the group about that? Like, is that important or is that just kind of like outside speak that you're not focusing on? It doesn't matter where you're finishing in the group because ultimately you're going to face a tough opponent in the quarterfinal no matter where you finish.
Yeah, I think it's a mix of both. Like the way our team operates and we have like a massive focus on our high performance mindset. And we have an amazing coach, David Asprey, who is on board helping us with those sorts of things. And so much of the focus is being present, both when we're playing, but also when we're off the field and reflecting. So you run those stories in your head of, okay, well, if we finish here, then we'll play them and blah, blah, blah. But the most important thing is to just go, as you said, it doesn't matter. It's going to be a hard game. It's going to be a knockout game. No matter who we play, we have to win if we want to progress. So there was a little bit of, let's try and like, you want to finish first in your pool. You want to be dominant. So that was our goal, regardless of who that meant we would play. But there is that little bit of, okay, well, if we finish first and let's say the Dutch finish first and we won't play them in a semi and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, it just shows, especially how it went for us, it's game by game. You can't get too ahead of yourself because you may not even be in that situation. So, yeah.
Quarterfinal against China, 10 minutes in, you're 1 up. It's looking good. This is great. This is happening. Can you, like, you don't get ahead of yourself, obviously, at any point in the game because there's still a long way to go. But, like, when that goal goes in after 10 minutes, like, is there just something going on? Like, wait, this is what we're, planning. This is going well. And kind of like, do you remember what it was like sort of at that point of the game in that quarterfinal?
Yeah. I think for myself, I was on the field at the time, I think, when Alice scored. And, yeah, I was sort of thinking, not relief or anything, because as you said, there's still a long way to go. But I was thinking like, yeah, we're playing really good hockey and now we've got a result to, back up all the processes that we were doing so well. So I think it was sort of like things are working for us right now. Let's keep doing what we're doing. It wasn't it's all good or whatever. But I think that's how I felt. I was like, yep, things are working. Let's keep doing what we're doing. Yeah. Because
China get a goal back basically within a minute and then ultimately 3-1 up. You get the goal to get it back within 1. I mean, that last quarter though, like we're watching that, like we're like from a spectator's perspective, we're stressed and obviously going on there, but like it's probably a silly question in hindsight, but hopefully it won't be. Like, what is it like when you're out there doing everything in your mind to try and get that goal, to tie it up and then potentially a winner? Like, is it frustration? Is it panic? Is it like what is going through your mind in those last 15 minutes?
So as I sort of said, like obviously we do a lot of work and a lot of focus on trying to stay present and not let those sort of like stories or emotions like get the better of us. And so I think, for instance, the game like Argentina, it just shows that we do have it in us to play use the whole 60 minutes to get a win. So when you have that sort of evidence and then also you feel like you're playing well, you go, no, it's all good. Like if we keep doing what we're doing, then it'll come. And that's definitely how it felt. Like, especially obviously when I scored at the end of that third quarter, it was like, it's fine. Like, we've got 15 minutes to get at least one to keep us in it. But then obviously there comes a time where you go, okay, time is starting to get away from us. And, you know, how can we, like, I suppose, adapt what we're doing so that it's not panic, but we have to like go hard or like now or never. And we have some little tools in our toolkit to put into play to help us do that. And yeah, I really felt like we were coming over the top of them, especially that like the third quarter and that fourth quarter. I felt like they were panicking, which you know is odd when you're winning, but it definitely felt like we were starting to wrangle back the momentum. And so obviously when we didn't get the win, like that was, you know, extremely devastating. But in the moment, it felt like belief between everyone was, yeah, it's going to happen when we're going to keep doing what we're doing and it's going to come. And for myself in particular, like I was on the bench for the last 3 minutes of the game, I think. And even those last 3 minutes, like until there was maybe 60 seconds left, but in those last 3 minutes, I was like, it's fine. Like we're in attack, where good things are happening. We're going to get a corner. We're going to get something. And yeah, as soon as it hit that last 30 seconds, I was like, we actually don't have time left, which was probably the saddest thing because we were doing so much right and we just didn't have the time to do what we needed to do.
How much time do you allow yourself to feel that disappointment? As in, do you allow the night, allow the day, allow a week? I mean, you know, ultimately there's got to be a time where I'm sure coaches and sports psychs and everything are sort of helping you out there, but it's also important to feel that disappointment. So how long do you sort of allow yourself and the team to kind of just sit on that disappointment and then try and move on as best as you can?
Yeah, obviously straight away you're feeling it a lot. And so there was quite an extended period of time where we just sat in the change room as a team and, you know, cried and sat in silence and we just sort of felt it together. No one really said anything. We all just sort of sat there. And then you take that out to your families and then you're crying again, feeling it with them. But I mean, yeah, I don't think there's really like a timeline per se, but the next day, myself and Amy Lawton did, as we called it, like sort of sat in self-pity for the day, where we just didn't really do anything but sort of let ourselves feel how we were feeling. And we both wrote some things down in our journals quite aggressively and, you know, spoke to loved ones and those sorts of things. But at the end of the day, it is sport. Somebody loses and someone gets knocked out. And we always knew that was a possibility. Doesn't make you feel any better at the time, but, you know, sooner or later you have to come to terms with that. And yeah, as how I felt was continue to try and enjoy the Olympic experience as best you can while you're there rather than waste it on something that's gone. And yeah, obviously our whole team was hurting, our coaching staff were hurting because we were doing so well. But yeah, there comes a time where you just sort of have to try and be at peace with it and accept that it sucks, but you still have to try and enjoy what you're doing and where you are and be grateful for where you are.
Because the reason I ask that is because we've had many athletes on this show sort of talk about that 24 hours after disappointment and the almost like a pity party, which like it sounds sad, but like we've all had moments in life, be it through sport or anything, where sometimes you do really need to take a moment to feel sorry for yourself and feel like shit and just like do what it takes to get through those moments. And I think it's very interesting to hear that from our guests on this show because it's not often a side we see or hear. It's always about the recovery and look forward, which is fantastic, but it's ultimately important as a human being to be able to feel the sadness sometimes and work your way through it.
Yeah. And I think that, like, as I've described it to some people before, when you play elite sport or you are an elite athlete, like you do everything to the extreme end, like you're doing extreme training and you're like feeling extreme emotions. So like there's nothing like winning in sport at that top level. Like it is the most, like the highest elation you'll ever feel. But then that also means that the lows are like some of the lowest that you'll ever feel. And people who don't play sport or like don't do something similar, like they don't understand what that feels like. It's not to say they don't have their own lows and their own hardships, but it's just so different. And so, as you said, like it's important for us to let ourselves feel that because what we're doing, like we dedicate so much of our time and so much of our lives to it, and we're doing it to be the absolute best we can be and be at the pinnacle of it. So you also have to accept that some of the emotions you feel are going to be like the pinnacle of those emotions. So yeah, it is important to let ourselves sit and feel it and try not to just like brush over it. Otherwise you're only going to hurt yourself later. So yeah, I think the pity party was needed. It was definitely needed.
Well, the two things I want to touch on that with disappointment, it fuels hunger for further success. Now, I'm going to bring this. Sounds like a mean thing that I'm about to say, Tatum, but I'm doing this for positive reasons. Now,
it's all right. I'm sure I'll understand.
There's a bit of a curse, it seems, on the hockey roos. When we're not winning gold at the Olympics, we're always finishing fifth. That's basically what it seems to be, right? So gold in Seoul, gold in Atlanta, gold in Sydney. Yep. Fifth in Paris, fifth in Tokyo, fifth in London, fifth in Beijing, fifth in Athens, fifth in Barcelona. We've got fourth in LA and then sixth in Rio. Now, the reason I say this is a bit of a curse, I said something similar to Grace Brown before Paris. I said in the women's time trial at the Olympics, we keep finishing fourth. This is a curse. And she straight away was like, well, I hope there isn't a curse. She went out and won gold in Paris. So I'm trying to say this right now, that there's a curse to put in the universe so that come LA, smashed, gold medal. There you go. So I'm trying to help you out here, Tatum.
Yeah. Yes. Well, I mean, we all thought that Paris would be the one to break the curse, but next time.
This clip is going to be played in 4 years' time. Yeah, you've said it now,
so it's going to happen. It
has to be. It has to be. The other point I want to make about disappointment fuels hunger for success. You then got a week to experience the Olympics, as you said. Now, that hunger could mean many things, but I'm thinking, does that mean you get to go and try the famous chocolate muffin then for the rest of the week that maybe you couldn't have indulged on much beforehand?
Oh, I definitely already tried that muffin. I had already had a muffin, don't you worry. I did have more after our campaign was finished, but yeah, it was nice. Like I got the opportunity to go and see the water polo final, which obviously Australia was in. That was the only sport that I got to, but so many other girls went and saw all these other sports. So yeah, it was as much as it was sad, it was like, well, I may as well be sad in Paris.
You got some time off in Paris. You can do it. Like, you got to go to the closing ceremony as well. What was that experience like?
Oh, it was magical. Like, we didn't get to go to the opening ceremony. Obviously, it was different either way.
Eddie did. Surely Eddie could have gotten you some tickets on that boat. Come on.
Well, we played not long after, so it was the performance decision not to go. Fair enough. But so we were obviously all even more, I suppose, excited for the closing ceremony. But yeah, walking into that stadium and having all those people just like literally there to see you, like you're not even like, it's not there to see you perform or race or anything. It was just there to see you and celebrate you. Like, that was so special. Yeah. And all, like, it was confetti and obviously like music and all of the, glitz and the glam. Like, it was a really nice way to end the Olympics, obviously. That's why they do it. But it was a nice way to sort of refocus, I suppose, for me, like my gratitude for what I just experienced, despite that it ended not the way I would have hoped. The experience in general, it was just a really nice way to reframe what I had, like, this really unique experience that I'd just gotten to live through.
Did you rush the stage to dance with Phoenix when the athletes weren't meant to but did anyway?
I did. I very quickly got off because I was one of the groups that the security guards got to first. But
damn.
Yeah. No, I was hoping I'd be up there for their song 1901 because I love that song. Yeah. But no, I was just sitting on the ground dancing to it. But I did try and get up there.
The fun bit I loved watching from the stands was there was this one volunteer who, like, I zoomed in and was filming her. Like, bless her heart, she was doing everything in her power to try and get the athletes off the stage, but the athletes were basically almost like getting her to dance and all this kind of stuff. I think she just got to the point where she's like, screw this, know.
And, so then, fair enough. Honestly, why not?
Yeah, it's a closing ceremony of the Olympics. Like, what's the harm going on there? Were you near Tom when he jumped over or rode the bike or anything along those lines? Did you get to see Mr. Cruz up close?
No, I didn't. I did spot him up on the stadium before he jumped, and I was saying, because I had heard little whispers that he would be involved, I was saying to all of my teammates, like, guys, that's Tom Cruise up there, and they're like, nah, it's just some random. And I'm like, I'm telling you, it's Tom Cruise. And then obviously all
You
of
were
that
right.
happened, and yeah.
There you go. Were you like the thing that I felt really the air dropped out of the stadium when people realized that the LA performance was in LA, right? Like Snoop wasn't going to be on the stage and all that. Because so many athletes left. Were you one of that group? Because like it felt so disappointing in that stadium, didn't it? Like, oh, they're in LA.
Yeah, it was, and like myself and some of the girls in my team were like, okay, let's, like you're at a concert or a festival, like let's get closer to the stage so we can see them. And then I heard Red Hot Chili Peppers come over the speakers, and I was like, that's not good. Like nothing's happened. That can't be good. And then they played, and I was like, all right, well, Billie Eilish put on her Instagram that she was doing the closing, so maybe she'll come out. And then her song started playing over the speakers, and I was just like gobsmacked. I was like, no, we've been robbed.
Yep.
But I was like, it's okay. Snoop was actually here.
Yeah, Snoop's in Paris, right? He's gonna be there.
He's here, so we can rely on him. And then his song started playing over the speaker, and we were all just like gutted. We were like, no. We did end up hanging around for a bit longer to listen and see what was next. But yeah, that was disappointing to say the least.
Yeah, because it was almost like when when the American national anthem started, and sort of like we knew that was happening. The stadium all of a sudden like stood up. Oh, here we go, Snoop! Like we're getting into this and all that sort of stuff. And then it was just fascinating watching. Like I swear the stadium was half empty by the time we had the My Way performance at the end and then the fireworks. So it was just like come on, what's he doing there, Snoop?
Hers was like singing the national anthem was like phenomenal.
Oh,
and
it was amazing.
Don't know the name of the artist who sang My Way, but also phenomenal. So like I'm glad I was there and I saw it through to the end. But
the fireworks alone at the end though were pretty cool, right? Like that was to be able to kind of to see that. I mean, Tatum, we touched on your injury obviously, but since you've come home, you literally had surgery a couple of days ago at the time of us recording this. I mean, tell us about sort of the recovery process now, and I guess I hate asking this question to people who've just come back home from an Olympics, but like what's next? We've talked LA. I mean, there's Commonwealth Games potentially in 2026 if they include hockey. We don't know yet, but kind of what are the plans now?
Yeah, so obviously with the surgery, my most immediate plans are to focus on my rehab and get back to playing hockey. So I tore my meniscus and needed I tore my meniscus in February, and sort of knew then that surgery was on the card. So I was, pretty grateful that I didn't need it then, because that would have put me out of the Olympics. Obviously rehabbed, did all the right things then, and kind of knew coming home I would need to get it rescanned and looked at and likely would get surgery. So obviously here I am post-surgery having had that, and I've got 6 months ahead of me of rehab, 6 months until I'm fully back to square one, I suppose, of being able to play hockey again. So yeah, that's obviously my immediate focus. And then it will just be to continue developing within the group, I guess, for the end of all of 2025 through Pro League to, I suppose, hopefully prepare the team and myself for Com Games, hopefully. But if not, World Cup in 2026. Those are sort of my next, major tournament goals. But yeah, I feel very grateful every time I get to pull on my playing uniform. So just to get back to that for starters is where I'm at.
Good to hear. And 6 months on the couch doesn't sound too bad, does it? I don't know.
It could be worse. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Have you got the Netflix playlist like all ready to go? All the suggestions and everything along those lines of what to watch and do?
I'm actually really indecisive, which is terrible because I'm like, there's all these things that I want to watch and should watch and I've been recommended, and I just can't decide where to start, especially with TV shows, because it just consumes my whole life. So if I start it, I'm watching the whole thing in that day, which isn't so bad because I can't move right now, so I don't feel bad. But no, I've been reading a fair few books to start with before I hit the Netflix, but I think I'm going to have to start that probably this evening.
Well, if you need any tips for a podcast to listen to, I might be able to hook you up with one. I might know.
Maybe. I mean, maybe. I've heard of some good ones. I don't know.
I haven't. I wish I knew a good podcast. It'd be nice to be involved in one. Tatum, before we wrap it up with a set of get to know you style questions, two things I wanted to touch on quickly. I've mentioned a few times your TikTok, which I mean, thoroughly entertaining. Can I just say that? Like the stuff that you're posting on there and kind of some of the stuff you had during the Olympics and everything along those lines. I mean, bit of a hobby, bit of fun. Like, I mean, kind of like how much do you enjoy sort of, putting together these fun little TikToks for your followers to be able to watch?
Yeah, I love it. I've always sort of been someone who's like pretty creative and like I share a lot of things on social media and I've always been someone like that. But yeah, I mean, it is also a fair bit of effort. so I'm like,
might have some time now. You can do a bit more.
Yes. So I'm not sure the, influencer life is for me because it's a lot, but I do like sharing what I can and putting together things, that I think are entertaining and funny and if I think it's worthwhile. So yeah, maybe I'll make a few more, but it is good fun. It is good fun. I don't see myself stopping anytime soon.
It's good. So you went to the water polo. You talked to like Tilly Kearns about it or something along those lines. She's got like a couple of million followers or something like that.
I don't know how she does that. Like she's just got her phone, which is fine. Like, I wish I could be like that. She's got her phone out all the time. And I'm like, she seems like so much effort. And then I'm like, if I get it wrong, then I got to do it again. And that's so much effort. So
yeah, look, I think you're doing a good enough job out there that you're sort of attracting the people. The one though that I think that would hook people in, your love of being a bit of a DJ. I saw a few bits of things happening in the village, and there's a video of you in one of your Hockey Rouge shirts giving a bit of a crack to DJing. Is this a bit of a hobby that you're trying to explore a little bit further as well?
Yeah, definitely. I picked it up during my first round of rehab because again, I wasn't allowed to do a whole lot. So I was like, well, I love music like so much. So I was like, well, I may as well expand this hobby. And house music and EDM and that sort of stuff is what I like. So got straight into it. And I might be doing some DJing gigs for Brisbane Blaze since I won't be able to play.
Hey, there you go.
So yeah.
DJ Tatum sounds like somebody who I would listen to on the radio. Like that legitimately sounds like a top 40 charting artist, DJ Tatum.
Yes. Well, there's been a lot of, conversations between my teammates around what my DJ name should be. And so if DJ Tatum's what sticks, then that's what sticks. But it's a good hobby. It's good fun. And yeah, who knows?
I think it's once Raygun comes back into the fray a little bit, she gave me a B-boy name. So I'm wondering if she can transition that B girl name into like DJing, and then it could, fellow Olympian teammate there with you to get that from Raygun. That would hold some weight, I think.
Yeah, I'm open to suggestions, and if she's got any, I'm happy. I'm all ears. I'm listening. Raygun, okay. I'm listening. If you're listening, I'm listening.
when she comes back on the show, that'll be the first question I ask her. Like everybody will have all these. Like, Ben, you didn't ask about this. You didn't ask about that. Like, no, I had a promise. I kept to Tatum. We're going to get a DJ name going out there. Tatum, before we wrap up, we close out with a set of get to know you questions. As always, these are a set of questions that were given to Team Canada ahead of their 2016 and 2018 Olympic campaign. There's usually a drawing element that we say is optional, which I'm kind of torn on this because usually I'm like, you've just come back from the Olympics. You're back into sort of civilian life right now. I don't want to put the pressure on you, but you're on a couch for 6 months. I kind of almost feel like I should be making you draw right now. How are your drawing skills?
I could get some pen and paper. I'm not afraid of it. I can't promise it'll be good, but I can definitely try.
I'm gonna be a bastard right now and make you do it. I'm gonna say, can you draw a picture of a teammate is one of our usual ones. So pick a teammate and draw a picture of them. And it can be a stick figure, it can be whatever it wants, but you send it in to us and we'll share it on social media to embarrass them as well. So we like that. Good. All right. Well, I'll start off with a basic question then while you think about that. Your favorite Olympic moment is? Now, this can be one of your own from Paris or something that you watched growing up, perhaps, watching the Olympics.
I love this moment the most from Tokyo. Unfortunately, I can't remember their names, which is terrible, but I used to know their names. When the two male high jumpers shared the gold in Tokyo.
Yep.
Yeah, I watched that whole high jump final and the way it ended, the emotion, the decision to share it, I'm pretty sure they're both really good friends. Yeah, I just thought that is the Olympics to me, the whole thing. Yeah.
Their names escape me right now too, but I know the Bahrainian, he got bronze again in Paris. But did you see what happened between the two high jumpers this time around?
they get to a potential jump off again, and they're like, "Oh, you can share," and then one of the
They
guys
said,
said no,
yeah.
and then the other guy won.
Yeah, it was a Kiwi and the American.
Kiwi, yeah.
And they were basically like, no, I said to myself I would not share it, so we're going to keep going. And the Kiwi won. So, yep. Got it. Sometimes karma bites you, right? Sometimes when it comes to that sort of thing. So there you go. As a kid growing up, who was your favourite sports team?
Oh, I mean, it's obviously very cliche to say the Hockey Roos, which, to be honest, like they probably were, but close seconds were the Australian men's cricket team. Like,
there you go.
Loved watching the cricket, especially on Boxing Day. So
yeah. And in the 2000s, right, when we were like, you know, the best team. I mean, not to sort of age you, you might have sort of maybe been a little bit more into the 2010s, Tatum. But you know, I mean,
I had a Ricky Ponting poster on my wall when I was still playing. So you know.
Fun fact, in Tasmania, it's law. You have to have a picture of Ricky Ponting on your wall. He should be on. We should have Tasmanian currency, and he'd be on one side. David Boone would be on the other. So you know that's just that's how it works. If you could be any superhero, who would you be?
Ooh, I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna have to say Iron Man.
Yes.
Only because that was like the first superhero movie I ever remember watching.
Okay.
And I mean, I just thought he was so cool, and like, he liked AC/DC, I liked AC/DC. He was like, yeah, I'm a superhero, what of it? So I feel like that's how I would probably be if I was a superhero. So
it's so funny when you mention AC/DC. I used to work at Sanity, and was it Iron Man 2 or 3? It was like all AC/DC music, and I think AC/DC have famously said they would never do a greatest hits. So that was like the closest they ever got to releasing a greatest hits. And the amount that CD sold when we got it in was ridiculous. So,
I'm actually pretty sure we probably own it. I wouldn't be surprised. Between my mum and I, we've got that CD somewhere.
Yeah, no, that was insane. Speaking of music, I mean, you touched on AC/DC. We touched on sort of your love of sort of dance music, but your favorite music artists are?
Well, number one spot at the moment, and probably for a long time, will be Fred again.
Yes. Okay.
And then some very close seconds, Rufus Du Sol.
Oh, yes. New album coming out in a few weeks. Excited.
Yes, I'm very excited for that. Mm-hmm. Sammy Vergie's up there at the moment. Lots, all pretty much current house EDM type vibes.
I'm just glad you said Rufus Du Sol. They're my favourite band, and it's sort of, I don't think we've ever had anybody answer them on this show before, so that gets me excited.
There's honestly not a bad song of theirs in my opinion. So
it's kind of like, I've got that as a mix of a playlist where I can put it on in the background and just chill to, but then also like turn it up. The live one that they did at the Joshua Tree, like just putting that up so loud, and when it drops into eyes, like the bass, I'm just like, yes. Yeah. So good. Yeah, absolutely. Your favorite place to compete is?
Competing in India was like, it's the closest you'll get to feeling like, you know, an actual massive sports star, because of the way
they're hockey mad, aren't they? They're obsessed with it.
Their stadiums, it's like the biggest stadiums for hockey in the world. So that was really cool. Yeah.
Wow, fantastic. Good to hear. If you could eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Is it allowed to be like a meal type
Of course.
food?
Yeah,
okay.
Go for it.
Probably eggs and avocado on toast.
Oh, nice. What you had for breakfast, if I'm not mistaken,
Correct.
Tatum. Yep. Our sound check. That's is that your breakfast every day because you just love it so much?
Well, not every day, because it takes a bit of effort to cook. And if I have training, then, you know, oats are probably the better choice. But yes, eggs. Whenever I go to a cafe, egg and avo for sure.
Yep. As we discovered, eggs are in short supply right now in Australia. So
devastating.
Exactly. Yep. What is one thing that you have always wanted to do?
Well, I probably will not do it now, but one thing I always wanted to do was be an orthodontist. So
wow. Yeah. Okay. Now I've got to ask about that. Why? It's a very obscure profession, but I'm intrigued. When
I was younger, I had like a lot of teeth issues. There was like overcrowding and a crossbite and an overbite and all these things when I was like in grade 3. went to the dentist, had some teeth pulled out, so I was gummy for a while. But yeah, I don't know. Weird. I know this is not a common experience, but I loved going to the dentist. And then I did eventually get braces, and I love my orthodontist, and I love the whole process of it and the mouth guards and all that stuff with hockey. So yeah, that's how I sort of was fond of it, I guess. But I did do work experience there in year 10 as well, and I got to do like all these other things I didn't know were part of it, like the 3D printing of the mouth guards and all the technology stuff to do with it as well. Like I just thought that was so cool. So I was like, yes, that's what I want to do. Obviously, I'm not doing that.
Two levels of fascination. One is because I was born without like 8 teeth, so I've got like pretty screwed mouth, and I was recently told it's a condition. It's called like hypodontia or something along those lines. So yep. I recently went through a process of going to orthodontist, dentist to sort of look into it, and it was all a very fascinating process. And the second reason why I find that fascinating, I kind of have an ongoing question that I always ask people who are a dentist or an orthodontist. I literally always ask them, and I mean this with the most utmost respect. I'm like, why did you want to become a dentist? Because like you speak to so many kids, like I want to be a doctor, I want to be a vet. I've never met someone in my life who has said, I want to be a dentist, or you might be the first, because it always fascinates me why people get into that profession.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I also just think like, you know, smile, like having a nice smile. And it sounds so weird. I'm probably digging myself a hole, but like looking at people's teeth to me was cool. And like,
it's one of those.
We'll leave it there before I keep getting the shovel. But
it's you know, the funniest thing is with it, and it's sort of one of these things that like it was one thing that never crossed my mind at all. Until a friend of mine one time, we were out, we'd had a few substances, and he commented on my mouth. And since then, I've been very like, oh, like this is a thing that I've never even thought about. So you've got amazing teeth, Tatum. Let's just say that right now.
Thank you. Yes, that's my parents' money and patience and my orthodontist patience. So yeah.
And also for sponsorship reasons, we have Olympian Tatum Stewart on the show right now. Anybody like from Colgate or Oral-B wants, to sponsor her.
Mouth guard. I'll take a mouth guard sponsor.
Yep, exactly. What's that? I remember as a kid playing hockey, there was always that one brand of mouth guard that you would always get. The hockey. I don't know if that was like, I'm just old right now. Maybe there's multiple mouth guard brands now, or isn't there like the designated mouth guard brand for hockey, or am I just making that up?
I don't know. There's like the classic ones like Rebel. I think it's called like I know this is a watch brand, but I think it's maybe like G-Shock or something. I don't know. I also work at Rebel, so I probably should know the brand of mouthguard.
And as always, we're open to sponsors. How great are Rebel? What a great store they are. Just want to, suck up to some more sponsorship opportunities out there. In all seriousness, I actually do love shopping at Rebel, so I'm not even doing that to suck up. Your favorite movie is?
My favorite movie is Finding Nemo.
Oh, yes. Good one. You were like 1 year old when that came out, weren't you?
I was, but whenever, like, as silly as it may sound, whenever I'm feeling really sad, I always watch that movie and it always makes me feel better. So
just keep swimming, right?
Yep, that's it.
I'll age myself. I was 16 when that came out, and I remember going to the cinema to see it because, it was promoted heavily. Obviously, half of it's set in Australia. But I don't know how familiar you would be anymore with Rove McManus, and he used to have his show growing up in the 2000s, Rove Live. Very big fan of his, and he's the voice of the crab that goes, all right, I'll talk. So they talked a lot about him being in that movie. So
there you go.
Yeah, weird connections.
I would have never known that. So
yeah, it's this is where I start to feel old, Tatum, when I have to explain who Rove McManus is. Yeah. It's like, wow.
I don't know who he is, but I do now. So
there you go. Jeez. I'm just going to shut up now, I think. This obviously questionnaire is given to Canadians. So the question here, my favourite place to visit in Canada is, but I'll ask you, your favourite place to visit in Australia is?
Ooh. I actually love Hobart. I do. I love it.
You're the one who loves it. Okay. There you go.
Yeah, I've gone there probably more than any other city in Australia for national championships and those sorts of things. But yeah, every time I go there, I find something new about it or go back up Mount Wellington or something like that. But yeah, I don't know. I love it. I love Salamanca. So
Salamanca's fantastic. I mean, being from Toowoomba, I can't imagine we would ever see snow. So, like, have you been to Hobart when it snowed on Mount Wellington and experienced snow there? Yeah,
I have been. I think it was when I was 12, maybe when we went when it was snowing. But Toowoomba, as much as there's not snow in winter, it would put up a good battle for coldest place in Queensland, I reckon.
Okay. Yeah, well, hang on a minute, Tatum. Coldest place in Queensland is not cold. That's still summer for Hobart. I lived in Brisbane in winter. They're complaining it drops below 20. Come on.
Brisbane winter and Toowoomba winter are different. But
Okay.
I will also say that Hobart winter is a whole nother beast. So yeah.
The one thing I do keep selling about Brisbane 2032 is it is technically a Winter Olympics. So I'm fighting for ice hockey to be included in Brisbane 2032. So just if you're listening to this, organisers, please put it on the list. Your favourite cartoon to watch growing up was?
SpongeBob.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. That's still going, isn't it, SpongeBob? Isn't it?
Probably. I personally haven't watched the more recent episodes, but yeah.
Put it on the list. Put it on the net. Long time to catch up. If you had to do karaoke, what would you sing?
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Oh, good answer. I like it. You need to have like a duet partner though, right? Like, have you got a teammate who would kind of, be doing the Galileo, like with you at all?
I'm sure I could wrangle one of them into it with me, but
Draw
if
a
not,
picture of them. There you go.
if not, then I would give it a good crack trying to do both.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. That's what we like. Last one for you today, Tatum. I mean, you might have touched on this because you've obviously touched on a few of the other sports that you sort of grew up wanting to be involved in a little bit more. But if you could be an Olympian in any other sport besides your own, what would it be?
If I could be an Olympian in any other sport, does it have to be an Olympic sport?
Let's say yes for the purpose of this. Yes. So
Fair
cricket, you can say cricket now because cricket is an Olympic sport. So
Well, yes, like I've got a tie. It would be cricket or rugby sevens.
oh yes, good answer.
Yeah,
I like that.
I love rugby. I like rugby watching it, and I've always wanted to play it, but just never found itself in my wheelhouse. But yeah, I'd love to give it a go.
It's it was one of the first sports I got to see in Paris, and it's so much like I thought it was fun on TV, but being in the stadium and watching it, like just absolutely epic. Tatum, it's been a lot of fun. We've talked about your TikTok. We've talked about your social media. Tag it. Where can people find you? Where can people follow the DJing and all the other future influencer videos that you're going to be posting?
Yes, so my Instagram is Tatum Stewart, so my full name _ and I'm fairly certain my TikTok's the same. I don't actually know. Let me find out. But yes, I'm pretty.
I mean, are there too many other
find.
Tatum Stewart influencers on TikTok or?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't think my name's that unique, but a lot of people I meet tell me it is. So I'm sure you'll be able to find it. It's got hockey pictures and photos everywhere, so you'll know it's me.
You might be the first Tatum I've ever met in my life. I can't think of
There you go.
there's obviously the basketballer with the surname Tatum, but not first name Tatum. So is it Scottish? Is it Stewart? Sounds Scottish. I'm guessing
Stewart
is that
Scottish. Yes, I do have Scottish heritage, but I think my first name is English.
Okay. All right. So, okay, never mind. Right, we're just getting to
I don't know. Let's say it's Scottish for
name. Let's just go with the Scot. We'll keep it on the Scottish. Tatum, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show and learning about the journey. Good luck with the rehab and everything going forward with that. And as we said, we've officially broken the curse, and we look forward to talk to you in 4 years' time as an Olympic gold medalist from Los Angeles.
Yes, that's the plan. Thank you so much for having me.